They say that the forest is older than memory, older than language, older than prayer. Before the first village was built, before the first ancestor was born, this forest already waited, breathing slowly like a sleeping giant curled under the earth. And the forest remembers. It remembers every foot that has walked upon its soil, every tear that has watered its roots, every scream that has echoed between its shadows. Trees, they say, do not simply stand. They watch. In the land of the red earth and ancient baobabs, where the rivers curve like serpents and the nights are heavy with whispered names, there was a village called Umeji. Umeji was not large nor wealthy, nor known to the outside world. But it was proud. It was old. And it was held together by tradition, woven like the vibrant cloths drying on the women's lines under the sun. Cocks crowed at dawn. Drums called the men to fields. Smoke curled from clay hearths. Children with dust-covered feet chased one another between calabash trees. Life moved with rhythm. And among the people of Umeji lived a hunter named Obiora. Obiora was a man the forest knew by name. His back was broad, his hands steady, his voice calm. He did not hunt for pleasure. He did not kill to boast. Every animal taken was prayed for, thanked, and honored. Even the spirits of the wild respected him. The old women praised him. Ah, Obiora is not just a hunter. He is a son of the forest. The young men admired him. His arrow does not miss. His spear does not shake. The children followed him as he returned from the trees, clapping and calling, "O Biora, Biora, tell us what you saw. Was it the leopard with golden eyes? Was it the lion that roars only at the new moon?" And Obiora would smile, kneeling to their level. What lives in the forest has its life. What lives in the village has its own. Respect both, and you will live long. He had a wife named Adama. Adama was soft-spoken, graceful as a river reed, with laughter that sounded like the first rain after harmattan. She wove cloth in colors that breathed, amber like the setting sun, indigo like the deep river, red like earth at dawn. Their home was warm, peaceful. But there was one sorrow. They had no child. Years passed. Seasons changed. Farmers planted and harvested twice, thrice, 4 times. But Adama's womb remained silent. Sometimes at night, Obiora held her as she cried quietly into his chest. He would whisper, "The ancestors do not forget the patient." But in his heart he prayed harder, because he believed a man should leave a name behind. And that is where pride waited, silent, dormant, like a seed beneath the soil. One morning, the banjo drum sounded in the village square. Call to meeting. The hunters gathered, lean, strong men with leather bands, iron-tipped spears, bows carved by ancestral rites. The elders sat before them, their wrappers tied neatly, cowries and chalk marking wisdom on their brows. Elder Nwokike spoke. "There is trouble in the forest." Hush fell. Game has vanished from the western groves. No antelope, no bush fowl, not even hare tracks. And at night, the wind carries voices. The younger hunters shifted nervously. Another elder, Mama Ebel, her eyes white with cataracts yet sharp with spirit sight, added, "Not voices of the living. Not voices of the ancestors. Something in between." The men exchanged glances. Obiora stepped forward, steady as always. "The forest knows me, elders. I will go." Some hunters nodded in relief. For if Obiora was going, surely they were safe. But Mama Ebel did not look relieved. She stared at Obiora with her clouded eyes, as though she could see something else standing behind him. "Be careful," she whispered, "where the forest closes behind you." Obiora frowned. What does that mean? But Mama Ebel only clicked her tongue. Obiora prepared his journey. Bow woven from Irako wood. Arrows tipped in blackened iron. A skinning knife. a leather water flask, a small calabash of palm wine, kola nut for offering. At the edge of the forest, he placed the kola on the ground and spoke. Spirits of earth and air, I walk with respect. Let my steps be true. The wind rustled the leaves like an answer. He stepped inside. The air changed. The forest was not silent, but listening. Cicadas buzzed softly. Leaves shivered without wind. Shadows stretched long even though the sun still stood high. The deeper he walked, the more familiar everything felt. Obiora had walked these paths 1,000 times. Every bend, every hollow, every fallen log. But today something was wrong. There were no animal sounds, no hoof tracks, no droppings, no broken grass blades. The forest felt empty. Not empty like abandoned. Empty like waiting. Hours passed. Sun dipped. Obiora knelt near a clearing, studying the soil. He searched for any sign. Then he froze. Pressed into the red earth. Footprint. Human. Barefoot. Obiora's heart skipped. No one else from the village should be this deep in the forest. He placed his own foot beside the print, and every muscle in his body went still. The footprint matched his exactly. Same length, same arch, same curvature of the toes. Same old scar from when he stepped on a thorn as a boy. Obiora stared. His throat tightened. He whispered, "That is impossible." He had not passed this way before today. Yet here were his footsteps leading deeper into the forest. Not behind him. Ahead. Like someone wearing his feet had already walked the path he was walking. A cold wind passed, though the air was still. The trees seemed to lean closer. But pride, pride, whispered inside him. You are a son of the forest. Fear has no place in you. So Obiora followed the footprints. He walked further, deeper, darker, until the sun died behind the treetops and the world turned navy and violet. Obiora made camp near a cluster of roots. He gathered wood, struck flint. Fire bloomed orange and warm. He cooked his kill, a small hare caught with silent ease. He said the blessing. Then the forest exhaled. Not the breeze, not the night air. Breath. Human. Low. Right behind him. Obiora turned sharply. Nothing. He called out. Who shares this fire? Come forward. There is no harm here. Silence. He waited. And then, a step. Walking behind him. He stood. Turned. The fire flickered. There was no one. Yet when he looked down, footprints appeared in the soil. Fresh. Forming. One by one. Walking toward him. But there was no body making them. The air thickened. His heartbeat thundered in his skull. And then, voice. Not from the forest. Not from the world. From inside the air itself. I walk where you walked. Obiora's bones turned to ice. The fire crackled softly as Obiora stood frozen, staring at the soil where the footprints appeared one after another. Slow, deliberate, as though an invisible body was stepping closer to him. The night air was heavy. So heavy it felt like it was pressing against his skin. A hunter's instinct is trained to remain still, but Obiora felt a coldness crawl along his spine. His breath shortened. His pulse thudded in his ears like war drums. And again the voice came low, hollow, like something speaking through water. I walk where you walked. Obiora's throat tightened. His voice came out rough. Show yourself. Silence. But the footprints did not stop. They circled the fire. Slowly. Patiently. One full circle. As though studying him. Obiora's hand moved to his knife. Not to strike, just to feel grounded. The voice sighed. Why do you chase what already knows you? The flames flickered violently, bending toward one side as if something massive had just moved past them. Obiora stepped back instinctively. His heel brushed something soft. He looked down and saw another footprint. But this one was fresher than his last step. His heart pounded. He spun and saw movement. Not a figure, not a shape, just a suggestion of something standing just beyond the firelight. Like heat shimmer, like shadow without body, like breath without flesh. Obiora whispered, "Spirit." The voice replied, "Not yet." Then suddenly everything stopped. The footprints ended. The air went still. The night resumed its normal sounds. Crickets, distant owls, leaves rustling. As if nothing had happened. But Obiora could not sleep. He did not close his eyes for even a single blink. He sat beside the fire until morning bled slowly into the trees. He waited until sunlight felt warm on his skin. Only then did he stand. He followed the footprints again. He was no longer following a path. He was following himself. Or something that wore him like a mask. The footprints led deeper. Far deeper than any villager had traveled in living memory. The trees grew older here. Trunks so wide that 5 men with interlocked arms could not encircle them. Roots like giant serpents frozen in motion. Moss soft as burial cloth. The sun dimmed, though noon had not yet passed. Obiora whispered a prayer under his breath. The air responded, warm and cold at once, like exhaled breath that did not come from him. The footprints ended. At a clearing. The earth here had no grass, no leaves, only smooth red soil. The space was perfect. Unnaturally perfect. A circle inside the forest. And in the center stood a large stone, tall as a man, shaped like a grave marker. On the stone were carvings. Not words, not symbols, but repeated outlines of feet. The same shape, the same size. Over and over and over. Obiora approached slowly. His breath trembled. He reached out. The moment his fingers brushed the stone, the world changed. The forest blurred into shadow. The ground trembled. The air thickened like smoke. And before him, figure stood, shaped like a man, standing upright, facing him. But it had no face, no eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just a smooth head and a body made of shadow, dense, heavy, as though carved from darkness. And on its feet, Obiora's own footprints. The creature took a slow step forward. His voice was not sound. It was felt inside his bones. "You have walked where I walk." Obiora's entire body locked in place. "What are you?" he managed. The shadow tilted its head, the motion disturbingly familiar. "I am the echo of your steps." Obiora shook his head. "No, I'm real. I am the original." The shadow stepped closer. "Original." Its voice almost mocked him. "Ask the earth, which step was first." Obiora's chest tightened. He did not understand. Not fully. But something ancestral inside him did. The creature was a copy. A reflection that had stepped free. A memory the forest had held too long. Something created when his pride grew loud. Something that walked before him. And now wanted to become him. The shadow lifted an arm. Obiora saw his own arm. His own bone structure. His own scars. His own life. Reflected back at him. The shadow spoke. "One of us walks forward. One of us returns to earth." Obiora realized. This was a challenge. An ancestral test. The forest chooses who has the right to remain in the world of the living. Obiora's voice stayed low. "If I refuse." The shadow stepped closer. Their foreheads were almost touching. "Then you are already gone." The air snapped, like lightning without light. Obiora staggered back, gripping his spear. The shadow did not move. Simply waited. That was worse. Because hunters know. The one who waits is the one who knows it will win. Obiora set his stance. Knees bent. Weight balanced. If I strike to live. The shadow answered. If I strike to return. Return. Return to where? To his life. To his village. To Edema. To his name. The shadow wanted to take his place. Obiora lunged first. The spear cut through air. The shadow split like smoke, then reformed behind him. It moved with his speed, his rhythm, his training. Obiora spun and struck again. The shadow mirrored him perfectly. Every stance, every angle, every breath. Only faster. Then the shadow attacked. Obiora barely blocked. His arm shook from the force. The blow felt like being struck by the weight of the earth itself. His ribs ached. His vision blurred. But he did not fall. He stepped back. Stepped again. Found his breath. He remembered the elders' teaching. The forest does not fear strength. It fears acknowledgement. Name what you face and its power loosens. Obiora grounded himself. He spoke clearly. You are not me. The shadow rippled. He continued. You are what my pride could become. The shadow's voice cracked like burning wood. Silence. Obiora pressed forward. I hunt with respect. Kill with prayer. I walk to nourish, not to conquer. You are the hunger I refuse to feed. The shadow screamed. Sound like splitting stone. Lunged. Obiora braced. And instead of striking, he dropped his spear. He opened his arms. Not in surrender. In acceptance. The shadow collided with him. And merged. A heavy force surged through Obiora's chest. His lungs seized. His bones felt filled with molten iron. His thoughts flickered like dying flame. He gasped, clawed at the dirt, choked. Darkness swallowed him. It was dusk. Birds were calling. The clearing was empty. The stones stood silent. There were no footprints. Not his. Not the shadow's. His spear lay beside him untouched. He stood up slowly. But when he looked down, the footprints he left in the soil were not his. The arch was wrong. The heel was wider. Toes sharper. They did not belong to Obiora. The forest did not say which one of them had returned. The forest had chosen, but not told him. Obiora walked toward the village of Easy Eye as dusk thickened into night. The path felt familiar, yet distant, like a memory he was stepping into rather than a place he belonged. The trees whispered behind him. The wind carried footsteps that were not his. But he kept walking. When the first mud huts appeared between the trees, children playing outside froze. Their laughter died instantly. They stared at him. Not in joy. Not in fear. But in confusion. As if they recognized his outline. But not his presence. One child whispered, "Mama, who is that?" Obiora's chest tightened. He kept walking. Adama, his wife, was outside their home grinding cassava. Her hands stopped mid-motion as her eyes met his. For a long, heavy moment, they simply stared at each other. Obiora spoke first, voice steady. "I have returned." Adama's eyes did not soften. Her shoulders did not lower. Her breath did not quicken. She simply asked, "From where?" Obiora hesitated. The wrong hesitation. The kind a husband should never have. Because a husband always knows where he has been. He finally answered, "The deep forest." Adama stood slowly. Her tone was cold, careful, assessing. No hunter returns from the deep forest unchanged. Obiora forced a laugh. Too short. Too stiff. "Do I not look the same?" Adama studied him. Her gaze did not search his body. It searched his shadow. A whisper of fear flickered in her eyes. "Your shadow is walking too close," she said. Obiora froze. He looked down. And saw it. His shadow did not fall behind him. Nor to the side. It stood just beneath his feet, clinging to him like a second skin. As though afraid to be separated. As though alive. Dama stepped back. What followed you home? The drum was sounded. Not the drum of celebration. Not the drum of danger. The drum of judgment. The villagers gathered in a circle around Obiora. Torches flickered. Winds twisted dust at their feet. Eyes glowed with fear and suspicion. The oldest elder, Nadi, stepped forward. Eyes clouded with age but sharp with knowing. Obiora, son of Ease. Hunter of the southern trail. You left this village with a whole spirit. You return with a divided one. Obiora felt his pulse hammering. I am myself, he insisted. Elder Nadi pointed to the ground. Show us. The villagers leaned in. Obiora lifted his foot. Placed it softly in the soil. The footprint formed. The shape of the toes. The arch. The heel. The elders inhaled sharply. It was not the footprint of a man. It was the footprint of something born from him but not him. Adama covered her mouth. Child began to cry. Nadi lowered his staff into the dirt. You brought your echo home. Obiora's voice shook. I fought it. I rejected it. I cast it out. Nadi shook his head slowly. When you let it enter you, you did not defeat it. He tapped the earth. You became two. The elder's judgment was final. Obiora must be watched through the night. If he slept, and his shadow moved on its own, he was not the real one. The villagers surrounded him in a circle, torches blazing, chanting soft protection prayers. Obiora sat in the center. Open. Body still. Breath slow. Time moved strangely. The night thickened. The chants slowed. Torches flickered. And then, a villager gasped. Obiora's shadow was not still. It was stretching, pulling, rising. Obiora felt it before he saw it, the cold creeping up his spine. The shadow peeled itself from the ground, and stood beside him, shaped like him, but smoother, darker, smiling without a mouth. The villagers screamed. Obiora jumped to his feet, spear raised. The shadow spoke, its voice layered with his. You slept first. Obiora roared. I did not. The shadow's voice deepened. Your spirit slept. And the village saw the truth. The shadow was stronger. Because it did not doubt. Because it did not fear. Because it wanted to live. Obiora charged. The shadow caught his spear with ease. The spear shattered like dry wood. The shadow pinned him to the earth. Villagers did not intervene. This was not a battle of strength. It was a battle of identity. The shadow leaned close. Its whisper was ice. You lived your life without knowing which part of you led, and which followed. Obiora gasped. I know now. He placed his hand on the shadow's chest. Not to fight, to accept. I walk with humility now. The shadow trembled. Cracks of light split across its body. It began to dissolve. Slowly, silently. Like mist touched by morning sun. The shadow sank back into Obiora's feet. And this time, the shadow fell behind him, where it belonged. The villagers lowered their torches. Adama walked to him. She touched his shoulder. This time she did not flinch. She whispered, You have returned. Obiora nodded once. I walk with myself now. Moral. The loudest battle a person fights is against the version of themselves created by pride. If you do not confront your shadow will one day confront you.